Hey, welcome to What We Couldn't Say on Sunday. A new season starting right now. We're excited to be back after a summer off. We're also excited to be on video. If you're listening to this, you can't see us, but hey, go on YouTube and check out the video link because we want to be in your presence visually, not just with audio. And we're excited for this. We've been looking forward to kind of a new avenue of getting this material to people and extending this conversation about things that we couldn't do Sunday morning. So I'm Seth. I'm here with Pastor Kyle Reynolds, and we are unpacking this new series, I Want More. We've been looking forward to the fall for a lot of different reasons, but specifically this series kind of kicks off a new season of the church and a new season of leading up to the September, October, November, this Christmas run as a church, looking at going deeper in a lot of different ways. So Kyle, welcome. And what do you have for us today as far as like starting this new series, this new season, kind of all this?
Yeah, no, I mean, I just think it's one of my favorite seasons, first and foremost. It's the best season. Because of obviously the change, but just each month has a highlight of sorts. But holistically, from a farmer's perspective, it's harvest season, right? So this is the season where you reap the reward of what you labored for. And I think in the church world, what we labored for since Easter, and in the summer and all that stuff. And I don't know, it's just when school starts, people get back in rhythm. There's a fresh expectation. It almost feels like more new of a season than even January.
Yeah, I agree.
For us,
yeah.
For my family. And it's just this reset. And so I think we're just trying to maximize that idea of a reset and go, okay, then what in this season, if it's September to Christmas, what do we want to do to build expectation, anticipation, and preparation for what is the greatest celebration in the world, that, hey, in spite of all of our pain, in spite of all of our situational problems, like he is with it. Emmanuel, God is with us. Like he stepped out of heaven, and it's the best season of the year.
Yeah. And I always feel like it's like a strengthening season because of in Ohio, how bitter the winters are getting. It's like, that's coming. So you're kind of trying to like, even though it's modern, we don't necessarily have to store up. Like you think of the old times where you had to. I do think there's a storing up spiritually, emotionally, preparing for these school rhythms, preparing for, whatever the end of the year closeout might be business wise. Like it is this storing up before the cold. So, and is that kind of what this series is aimed at? I mean, we just kind of kicked it off on Sunday. Can you give a little more background?
No. So zooming in now on the series is just going, okay. For me, I've always wrestled with wanting more, not being happy, and that's different than not being content. But I've always felt this like guilt, this push-pull, this tension of like, well, the Apostle Paul says we have to be content in all things, and I'm like, yeah, but I want more. Like I want to see more of God. I want to see more miracles. I want to see greater salvations. I want to see greater numbers. I want to see greater depths being mine. I want to see greater amounts of freedom. All these things, and I think that is true of everybody. And so for me, Kyle, this was how do I reconcile what does it mean to be content and trust, but also to be led by a Savior who said, hey, you're laying hold to a forcefully advancing kingdom, which comes with this implied sense of forceful men lay hold of it. Mm-hmm. Forceful men and women lay hold of it, that we're working towards something. We're building something as on earth, on Willoughby Hills, in Willoughby Hills at Friends Church as it is in heaven. And so it's just that idea of going, okay, how do we accomplish more? Not for the sake of doing more, but to satisfy the hunger of us becoming more like the bride that Jesus is ready to come back for. So this series really answers that. And then, out of this series, we're going to go into kind of more of a development series. Like this is a motivating series, development series next, and then deepening series kind of in November, and then in Christmas. And the culmination of this series is a night of worship where, corporately we're going to pursue Jesus and show up with expectation that the Holy Spirit is going to meet us where he's at. And I'll talk about that more in the weeks to come, but that's at the end of the month. And then my favorite thing is out of that, we're just going to have a huge party. Not a party for any reason, but a party that like, this is the joy of life, that we get to do this together. We get to celebrate the goodness of God, that look what he provides, look what he's up to, look what more he has given, not more so we could hold on to it, more that we could share.
Yeah.
And that's Fall Fest, and that's going to be great. So this series is just, okay, if you want more, how do you go get more?
Mm-hmm.
If you want to be motivated, how do you have a holiness in your motivation? How do you strive for the right things and not strive for things that you shouldn't strive for?
Mm-hmm.
How do you not be afraid of tomorrow, but yet long for tomorrow?
Which I think that is the longing, but yet with what attitude? Because like you're talking, wanting more is not the problem unless it's rooted in the wrong, desire, right? If we desire more of God, there's always more to find. Mm-hmm. It's not like we've reached the limit of if you've ever been in I encounter this now as you walk into an amusement park or a new store or something, you're like, there's something cool around every single corner. How can I find everything? And then you find that, that's just a facade wall. It looks like there's more, but there's really not.
Yeah.
Right? That's the empty feeling of this looks so cool. Oh man, I'm overwhelmed by how big this is. But then Disney, when they show the behind the scenes and it's no, that's just you're seeing a facade. There's nothing more beyond that. Even at the Star Wars, it's wow, I'm on Tatooine or I'm on this planet. It's no, you're just on a movie lot. There's nothing behind that wall. But here with Christ, there's so much more that you can never find the end of it.
And I will say, I love when we get in these situations because we set a course and then the Lord does what he does. And here we are, not necessarily off course, but I think that's a great point. And I think that's the study of eschatology. How is it going to end? What is the course? And when we understand that, Jesus is coming back, not to get us, but to establish a new earth and a new kingdom, that he's coming here, that our labor in the here and now actually is building the future we desire, the coming kingdom. And we have to be about the Father's business. And so there is a desire for us to do more, to walk in authority. When he says on this rock, Peter, I'm going to build my church and the gates of hell will not prevail. I turn on the news and I'm like, did I miss something? Because it feels like someone's prevailing that isn't you, Jesus.
Yeah.
But yet that's the part of it, is that we got more work to do. Not work harder, not work labor to a greater degree, though maybe, but we have to work with more intention and more belief and more in the power of the Holy Spirit that, hey, we serve a God that wants us to take new ground. They wants us to take back what the enemy has taken. And he's going to bless it and do the immeasurably more than we could ever ask or imagine. And so that's really the question is, okay, if it is biblical that he wants to do more, are we aligning our lives with desiring more?
Yes.
Do we believe that?
Right.
Do we trust him with more? And then will we go chase it?
Yes. So what we're saying with the series is there's more to be found, but there's a mindset that we have to adopt that he will enable us because he is greater than our understanding. He will enable us to find that more, but it's stepping forward with a mindset of rest and peace, knowing that he's capable. Where when it's on our end to do the more, that's where we get exhausted, we get worn out. Yes, those are all part of our humanity, but chasing after the more with a mindset of knowing that he will deliver it is a mindset of peace in the midst of the doing, to find what God wants to do more of in our life. So that's an important mindset.
And I, not that I'm not trying to be a jerk, I'm not trying to create momentum, but I will say I feel like the culmination of this series, this month at our church and more, is really this night of the worship, because I think that's when we're going to not pause, but we're going to remind ourselves of how he leads us, and worship in that we don't have to strive, that we can thrive because he's leading us next to still waters. And so don't miss it. It's going to be good. Not like a normal service, but it's really going to be a place of worship, but also a reminder of, we're going to posture ourselves like we're worshiping the one and following the one and serving the one and laboring for the one who truly is holding it all together.
And I teed it up on Sunday, but we did write song specific to the series that, and leading up to week 1, I'm like, are we sure we want to do this? Like talking to Julian, like, are we sure it's the right time to launch this? But even just knowing, kind of seeing it play out in real time now, knowing how timely this is, like, I'm just excited to hear the church sing these words and words that they haven't said before, but also kind of wrestling it with it myself to see, are we ready for it? But yeah, especially the night of worship, it's going to be fun to see that play up. So, all right, we're going to try to breeze through a couple things. What was some stuff that didn't make it, that some supporting ligaments on Sunday?
Yeah, it's not that what didn't make it, I guess a deeper level of context is twofold. There's the setting to what I preached on Sunday, um, that I think gives us a little bit more understanding of the context. Not enough that I cut it and it was still suitable for Sunday. And then even what Jesus says post this declaration, which is just as cool. And I think this is the part that is important, is that he had just finished, Jesus in chapter 9 had just finished healing a blind man.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, just pause for that. Like, a dude who could not see, a dude who's probably railed against, oh, what did your parents do to give you this
Right.
sin? Because they believed the consequences, like a disability or blindness, were this generational sin type thing, or what their parents
Mm-hmm.
did. But this person feeling a defeated life all of a sudden has fresh vision. And the Pharisees are grilling him like, who did this to you? Like,
Mm-hmm.
and questioning the motive behind it. Like, is this what kind of tomfoolery or satanic or power play is this? And it was just about a man being healed. And then Jesus kind of calls out these religious leaders. And I think it's really important, because we always want to assume that religious leaders are somebody else.
Mm.
But I would tell you, in the American church, we're probably more guilty of being Pharisaical than Christ-like.
Yeah.
We're all more recovering Pharisees than followers of the way that we were supposed to be. And so, like, someone emailed me. They're like, isn't this passage isn't really about what you preached on? It's about false teachers. When are you going to preach about false teachers? Fair. What? Cool. We'll do that. Whatever. But I'm like, yeah, but some of the worst false teachers in our lives are the lies we tell ourselves.
Yep.
We are our worst false teachers, because we justify our compromises, we justify our choices, I'm like, we, because of our sin nature, always are going to drift towards religion, towards check boxes and litigation and legislation of how our morality, and we think a certain amount of rules, a certain amount of policy is going to make everything better. And that is religion. That is a man-made false, and it can't save anyone.
No. And do we realize how much, to that point, like you're saying, if we are the false teacher, like, how much do we realize that our lives are teaching something to somebody? I think we always downplay how much influence our example has on everybody else around us. And when if we see that, like, we live our spiritual life with Christ is not in a closet, but it's external, that, yeah, your bad choices, you're going over the wall and not going through Christ, the way of Christ, is teaching and influencing somebody. Like, as much as you're trying to do it your own way, not only are you robbing yourself, but you're robbing somebody else by an example of the way of Christ. And man, that's so dangerous when you think that your sins only affect yourself.
And we're foolish. Correct. 100%. And we're foolish to think that we are judged by anything other or anything more than people's observations. And then we've created tools or mechanisms, or what would you call it? Devices, social media, which just gives people a greater ability to observe us and not actually know us or engage us or talk to us on a real level. And so they are drawing their conclusions based on these observations, and they're learning far more about you than what comes out of your mouth by your actions.
Mm-hmm.
What you do, what you spend your time with, who are you hanging out with? If you're on Spotify, everyone could see what music you're listening to. I'm not sure if that's true on Apple Music, but we live our world, and we're creating more and more glass houses, and then wondering, why do people treat me the way that I do? And it's like, well, because they see who you are.
Yeah, intentions become less important when it's just the action, right? I didn't intend to create that visual. Well, your perception in a world that is so visual is just as important as what you intend to do. If it's way more important than what we intend to do, is what we're trying to say.
And if you're a parent, you know this. How often are we yelling at our kids for doing something that we then turn around and do?
Right.
We always get caught in the trap of do what I say, not what I do.
Mm-hmm.
Yet our kids are like, but you do it. Why can't I do it?
Yeah.
And it's
put the video games away and you go back to scrolling. Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
Feel that one deeply.
So that kind of sets it up, and I really, obviously we honed on this passage. The thief comes only to steal, kill, and destroy, and I've come that I may have life and life abundantly. And that is really the text of importance is Jesus has come to satisfy, and not just satisfy us to the desires we know, but to blow our mind in those desires, the abundance of those desires. But I think when we choose the other path, we choose our own concoctions, our own ways, we're actually robbing ourselves of that blessing. That's what I hit on that. But I love this, and this is one of the things that I cut, was I've come that they may have life and they have it abundantly. Jesus, is saying this contrast to shepherd with these people who are robbers, these thieves, they steal all that stuff that want to come and destroy. The Greek word for abundance is perissos, which has a mathematical meaning, which blew my mind. Okay, how when Jesus used these words, or when John chose to record these words in the Greek, there's so many layers, so many nuances. So this one had a mathematical bent, meaning generally denotes a surplus. The abundant life is above all the contented life. It is which our contentment is based upon the fact that God is equal to every emergency and is able to supply all of our needs according to his riches, according to his surplus, not our surplus. And that blew my mind, because I'm sitting here going, wait, that's kind of makes sense of what Paul was talking about, where he wants to do imaginably more. And he's saying, no, I want to satisfy your life out of my inheritance or my abundance or my surplus, not the surplus that you know.
Right.
Not the amount that you know. Abundance isn't a long life. Abundance isn't an easy life or a comfortable life. Abundance is a life of satisfaction and contentment that only he can provide, because his surplus, his abundance, is not of this earth. And that was another thing where it's mine, because I'm like, I would love the blessing of physical money. I would love the blessing of physical energy. I would love the blessing of a brand new car. I want to be on Profits and Watches with a $300,000 watch. Now, I'm just kidding. That's a little bit of a slight, right? But
someone takes that soundbite right there.
I'm just joking. And don't look it up, because you'll just be depressed. But my whole point is, all right, we focus on blessing as material things.
Right.
And we get so caught up in that. And listen, there is absolute blessing in material things. But Jesus is going, no. My blessing, my abundance, my surplus is actually eternal. And it's beyond anything you can understand. And it might not be felt in the natural, but it's going to be felt.
And I kind of, here's my are we okay with that? And that's the problem, because so often we get in this journey of following Christ and we're like, you are juxtaposed to what is around you, and what you see is just like you said, Profits and Watches, whatever, you see that. And it's like, do we see that there's more in the way of Christ? And are we okay with it? Do we want that? And that is a gut check, because so often we're like, we apply, to your point, I'm processing your point, and that point is to say we apply our own understanding of what abundance is versus, and I think this is what we're trying to teach with this series. So this is my interpretation of what you're saying, so correct me if I'm wrong. We're saying, do you want that, and do you want what it takes to pursue that? Yeah. Which, if we want the more that Christ has for us, then are we willing to walk in the way that leads us to that, which isn't easy. It's not always convenient, but it is fulfilling. It is worth it beyond. I mean, just think about when you chase after the things, our things, right? The things of the world, how exhausting that is. But when we make the time to say no to that and chase after the things of God, to the one that it is not. Oh, it's tired. It requires energy, but it's so much more rewarding.
And again, this is where the narrow path language comes in. This is where it's a uphill climb. It's a hard road. It's a road that not a lot of people choose. Sure, yes, yes to all that. The other thing I would say though is that it's often a road that you have to learn, or God gives you the grace to trust someone at their word.
Mm.
Because there's two people that hear that message. There's people who go, wow, and they reflect on all the ways that they strived in their life, all the ways they chased the money, the house, the dreams, and then they still weren't satisfied. And they go, maybe I'm chasing the wrong things. Or there's people who go, they have what I want, and they basically spiritualize what is an earthly desire. And then they get angry when they are unsatisfied, when they either attain it or get close to attaining it and realize that it is not as fulfilling, or it is far more empty than they realized. And then they either get mad at God, mad at the church, or mad at the idea of religion and swing the other way.
Mm-hmm. Or just like busy themselves trying to try harder until they can manifest it. And that's come to me and I find rest, right? Like there's if there's not rest in your life, then like, yes, there is exhaustion, but there's a difference between like being exhausted and overwhelmed and empty versus exhausted and filled.
And this point is so key. And we could have just preached a whole message on this. This whole series actually could have come out of this one chapter. And it's not, because there's some other things that I want to share, but what Jesus goes on next to say that I, again, didn't have time for on Sunday, that I would encourage you, please go read. It's just the rest of John 10. He says this in 11, I am the good shepherd, and the good shepherd lays down his life for the sheep. And you're like, wait, what? Right? He is now about to foreshadow to his disciples what he is ultimately coming to earth to do, to make a way where there was no way, to sacrifice himself, to take on the sins and the shame of the world and pay the price for what we cannot afford. But I think it's crazy to go, hey, you're robbing this blessing, and I'm going to give you abundance. And then he literally lays out what that abundance is. I'm going to make a way where there was no way. And it's this beautiful foretelling that I think these disciples were going, what is he talking about? Mm-hmm. We're going to overthrow Rome. Like, what? This is
got our plan. Yeah.
And so I just imagine when they reflect, when John's writing these, going, oh my gosh, how did I miss this? Mm-hmm. How did I not take him at his word? Or how did I not see it for what it was? Because he just goes on. He who is a hired hand is not a shepherd, who does not own the sheep. He sees the wolf coming, which again, I love this. He sees the wolf coming. He doesn't say if the wolf might come. He sees the wolf coming. There's always a wolf. And he leaves the sheep and flees, and the wolf snatches them and scatters them. He flees because he's a hired hand and cares nothing for sheep. But I'm the good shepherd. I know my own, and my own know me. Just as the Father knows me, and I know the Father, I am willing to lay down my life for the sheep. And I have the other sheep that are not of this fold. I must bring them also, which is crazy. Because he's sitting there going, hey, there's people that aren't in yet that are going to reap the return on this investment in the futures to come that don't even know. Like, that's talk about foreshadowing there. It's like, hey, this isn't just for the Jews. This is for the Gentiles and the world. Mm-hmm. That, again, this small microcosm of this Jewish rabbi is going to change everything. Mm-hmm. No, he's going to change everything for everyone. And he goes, and I have other sheep that are not in this fold, but I'm going to bring them in, and they're going to listen to my voice. So it'll be one flock, and I'll be the one shepherd. For this reason, the Father loves me, because I lay down my life and I will take it up again. Which, that's another crazy thing where you're like, well, he's going to lay down his life, and then he's literally, and I'm going to pick it back up again. I'm going to operate in my heavenly authority, and I'm going to conquer death itself. And they're like, how does someone die? And then, right? It's just mind-bending. No one takes it from me, but I'm laying it down on my own accord. I have the authority to lay it down, and I have the authority to pick it up again. This charge I have received from my Father, which, so this was a part of God's plan. Mm-hmm. This was the plan all along too.
Which, if we're to be like Christ, it's also our charge to lay down our life.
Well,
pick it up again and chase after.
Yeah, there's not a well.
Yeah. No,
stop saying well. But yeah, that's the intern. That's the go. Okay, a life of more is actually not more being filled. It's a life of pouring out more, trusting that you'll never run empty.
Yeah. Yep.
And that's the crazy part, because he's like, no, don't act like a hired hand.
Yeah.
Hired hands get tired. Hired hands complain about the work, how much they're getting paid, how many breaks they got. When the enemy comes,
they run away
because they have this protection that they feel like they're not eternal, they're temporal, and so they have something to protect. But he's like, no, be like me. Know that nothing on this earth can hurt you. Nothing on this earth can harm you. That even if you lose your life for my sake, that's actually where you gain it.
Mm-hmm.
That death is not the end. That this blip on the radar that we call life with breath in our lungs is actually nothing compared to the life that I'm going to give you in this thing called eternity that I created. And my Father gave me this task.
Yeah. So what would you say? I mean, Sunday, a big takeaway was, hey, start this journey of relationship with Christ. What would you today, like kind of after sitting with it for a few days, having some conversations, kind of coming off of finishing the rest of the week, looking forward to the second part of this, what would you say is the takeaway for people?
Don't get me wrong. Absolutely was a salvation call. Absolutely was like to go through the right gate. And that's awesome for those who are not following Jesus. For those of us who follow Jesus, I think where we got to keep mining the depths of our own soul to go, is this preference or is this my ministry?
Mm-hmm.
Like, am I going to keep laying down my opinions? Am I going to keep laying down how I would like it done? Am I going to keep laying down my comfort? And it's amazing how we trust Jesus with our life. This was a point that I had. We trust him with our eternity, but we won't trust him with our lifetime. Like that job that you really want, or that boss that you have to endure working for, or that neighbor that you just dislike, or the loved one, or how about this divorced family? I'm going to love my ex, even though they didn't love me, for the sake of my kids, because I care more about modeling what is healthy and what is holy than being right. Like that comes at a cost to us. But that's
laying down your life.
That's the difference between a hired hand and a shepherd, is I'm willing to pour it out because I know that I have a God who will never let my cup run empty, that his surplus will sustain me. So I'm going to keep pouring out. So
inspect our intentions, look to Christ as that fulfillment. And man, we're excited for the rest of the series, excited for the worship night. So make sure you mark your calendar for that, September 28th, and join us for that. Join us each week of the series. There's a lot to get out of it. And we hope that today was helpful to helping you take a next step. Definitely come back and join us for next week as we unpack more of this week 2. Thanks for joining us. And
feels good to be back.
Yeah, it feels good to be back and good to unpack. So until next time, we'll see you later.